Hello and welcome aboard the Gallant Says podcast. It is Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. I am Paul Gallant. You can watch this live at youtube.com/Paul Gallant, twitch.tv/Gallant Says, on X or Twitter at Gallant Says, Instagram at Sports Gallant, and Facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports. You can also get it after the fact wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud on a Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. We'll talk about the Houston Texans' decision to move on from wide receiver Diontae Johnson. Honestly, it shouldn't be that surprising. We'll also take a look at Rex Ryan's comments from over the weekend and his apology. Did it really motivate the Houston Texans? Did they need that to beat the LA Chargers? And last night's Rockets game, a game I wish that I had watched from start to finish, has us asking questions that we want to ask for a change. Let's get going.
A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
Paul Gallant's wondering the same things a lot of people wonder.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to say.
Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Texans play the Chiefs on Saturday, 3:30, a tradition unlike any other. They are 9-point underdogs per mybookie.ag. Promo code BET975. This is a very banged up Texans team on the offensive side of the football. Stephon Diggs already been out for the year for a while. Tank Dell has been out for the season after that awful injury that he suffered against the Chiefs a couple of weeks ago. So when you're shorthanded, when you see news like tight end Cade Stover being put on injured reserve, or the Texans waiving wide receiver Diontae Johnson after just 2 games, you wonder, well, who the hell is CJ Stroud going to be throwing to Saturday on the road against one of the best defenses in the NFL? But that's a question for another day. I really think you should be looking at the release of Diontae Johnson as what it is, a non-story. It's a non-story because Diontae Johnson's now played for an 1/8 of the National Football League over just the last 2 years. Steelers, Panthers, Ravens, and now Texans. When something like that's going down, before we even get to the 4th team, shouldn't you raise your eyebrow about the Texans bringing in somebody like that? I think we got a lot of people online who play a lot of fantasy football or who recognize name brand skill players, and you think to yourself, oh, this guy's on my team now. He's going to be good. D'Amico Ryans is going to get him to buy in, and he's going to contribute. And even if that guy still has some talent, which you saw on Saturday against the Chargers, he was actually open a couple of times. You got to wonder if this guy is, to be frank, an asshole teammate. And it's very clear that the guy is. I saw some people when Diontae Johnson was signed, and I rolled my eyes seeing some of the tweets that were out there, some of the posts that were out there, like this one, if you're watching along on YouTube or Twitch or Instagram or Facebook or on X/Twitter. I saw a lot of that. I rolled my eyes because I just don't get why people thought that the guy was going to be good when he's been on as many teams as he's been on the last couple of years. But maybe that's because I read way too many articles from ProFootballTalk.com. But I was under the impression that the guy wasn't nearly as good as he believed himself to be, which seems to be a Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver tradition, from Mike Wallace to Chase Claypool to now Diontae Johnson. I don't know how the hell Mike Tomlin keeps on getting dealt wide receivers with a lot of talent that seem to be head cases, but he got brought in. I don't think you should have expected much. You're taking a flyer. You're hoping for the best, but you're about as likely to get Diontae Johnson to be the Diontae Johnson you want as you are when you go to the store and you buy a lottery ticket when the number gets over a certain amount. Generally, for me, if it's over $500 million, then I buy it, but I only buy a $2 ticket. I don't go any further than that. I think you're crazy to buy like 5 tickets. Yeah, I have much better odds to win with 5 lottery tickets for $10 than 1 for $2. No, you're fucked either way. You're probably not going to get it. But Diontae Johnson is a guy that you should remember from this story just a couple of years ago with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Headline: Steelers wide receiver Diontae Johnson apologizes for lack of hustle following teammate's fumble. It won't happen again. Now, I'm not going to act like I watched Diontae Johnson film. I don't. But I do know that this happened, courtesy of everybody who was in the Houston Texans locker room. This is something that I did not notice because Diontae Johnson is so far off of my radar that the idea of paying any attention to what the guy does in the locker room after a playoff victory is far-fetched. But courtesy of a tweet from Landry Locker, check out his shit, The Locker Room, on his YouTube channel. Diontae Johnson made a scene in the locker room after the game where cigars were literally being smoked and the team was bonding, happy to get a W. It's very easy to see why Tomlin was over him, not Pickens in Baltimore, one of the best organizations in the NFL, bailed. It's something that you should have had in the back of your mind when they brought him in. Is this guy an asshole? Is this why he's available for absolutely nothing? You come into an organization like this. This is your tryout for another gig. This is not your tryout for the big-time contract that Johnson and every other player who makes it to the NFL are hoping to get someday. When you have been on 3 teams in less than 2 seasons, you got to know that something's up, and perhaps I need to look in the mirror. And this guy didn't. And he fucked up. This was a perfect opportunity for him here. But you do shit like that after a win. Why would anyone want you on your team? On their team? Why would anyone want that? Ugh. This is Diontae Johnson's introductory press conference when he first signed with the Houston Texans. Here he is standing outside of his locker.
In there real well, just knowing CJ a little bit. I met him at like a sign and whatnot, and then we just kept in touch, here and there throughout the season and whatnot. And just to finally get here and be in the office with him is a blessing. Just his talent, he brings to the game, how he plays the game as well. Just to be able to help contribute to the offense is a blessing.
In your short time here, besides CJ, some of the other guys you've been around, and just the culture in general, what have you learned already about the culture?
Team first. Everybody's about the team.
Team first. Everybody's about the team. He actually said that. Team first. Everybody's about the team. Bro, this was less than a month ago. How did you forget it that quick? Read the room, too. You're in a locker room after a playoff victory, and multiple players are going over to you to console you. Joe Mixon, Azeez Al-Shaair. Get it to fucking get her. Funny comment from Cebu on YouTube. I hope he gave back that hoodie. He is not Swarm. Clearly, he isn't. Here's more from Diontae Johnson, the now departed Houston Texan.
I'm about the team too, so I'm doing whatever the coaches ask me to do.
Doing whatever the coaches ask me to do, huh?
Special teams, return, free play a couple plays here and there, or just contribute in some sort of way. That's all I'm really worried about.
Clearly, he was worried about more than that. Clearly, the guy was worried about numbies. Come on, man. You got to be looking at the big picture here, and he will be lucky to have a job in the NFL after this. This is D'Amico Ryans when asked about him at today's press conference, head coach of the Houston Texans.
With Diontae, unfortunately, it didn't work out, and we're on to the Chiefs.
Good. That's all he deserved. And honestly, that was probably too much, those 4 seconds of him talking about Diontae Johnson. Some comments here. First off, on Instagram, at Sports Gallant, Astros flag _world tour asks, Paul, what do you think of today's injury report? Well, let's take a look at that bad boy. Because I guess what? Have not seen it quite yet. I am assuming that outside of Cade Stover being placed on the injured reserve, that nothing bad happened today. Here is the list. First off, Danico, hang on. This is divisional playoffs. They got the wild card up. Azeez Al-Shaair didn't practice. Shaq Mason didn't practice. Juice Scruggs didn't practice. And Robert Woods didn't practice. We'll see what Robert Woods' status is tomorrow. That's a little concerning given the wide receiver room and the state that it's in. But really, the fact that Diontae Johnson is sulking and then ultimately getting released, I think it goes to show you that D'Amico doesn't put up with bullshit. And good. He shouldn't put up with bullshit from a guy who is signed to be a good teammate and to try to be the best teammate he can be, like he's Arian Foster. Not quite. Mason and Scruggs not practicing. If they are not practicing on Wednesday, that's where we get concerned. Usually the first injury report that gets released is one that you look at and then you come back to the next day. So those are my thoughts on the injury report. From Twitch, at Gallant says, DeRhino1 says, 1, I'm pretty sure Diontae Johnson is trash. 2, I'm glad to be here with you talking football instead of the offseason right now. I 100% agree with you. Gregory Ray on Facebook comments, definitely a non-story. Let's talk about how the Texans are about to whoop that ass. I am not saying the Texans are about to whoop that ass. I am not going to do that. I think we should have learned something from a guy like Rex Ryan. And speaking of a-holes like Diontae Johnson, let's talk about Rex Ryan because many Texans fans believe Rex Ryan is one. I pressed the wrong sound effect there. I wanted to do this. We're bringing the Horatio Kane back from the Gallant at Night days. The problem is I just got to remember which button it is. I've seen a lot of people acting like Rex Ryan was the guy who pushed the Houston Texans over the hump for their blowout 32-12 victory over the Los Angeles Chargers on Saturday. And I got to say, those people, you got to relax a little bit on that, acting like that's the reason they won. They won because their defense at home suffocates good quarterbacks regularly. Josh Allen, Jared Goff, Tua Tagovailoa, and now Justin Herbert. Not so much Lamar Jackson. He's a different kind of elite quarterback. But it's about what their defense did, and it's about their offense eventually waking up in this game. It took not Aiden Hutchinson. I wish we had Aiden Hutchinson. That would be nice. Imagine adding him to the pass rush you already have, which is one of the best in the league. Xavier Hutchinson, that 3rd and 16 throw that C.J. Stroud made after dropping the snap to Xavier Hutchinson. It got the offense feeling more confident, but did it really execute to the degree that it's going to need to against a team like Kansas City, which has a better defense, I think, than the Chargers? They're about on the same level in terms of statistics and numbers. I think the Chiefs have just been there and done that, and that they have more of a game wrecker on the interior in Chris Jones than what the Chargers have with Joey Bosa, with Khalil Mack, with Bud Dupree, and the guy whose name I don't even want to try to pronounce. Like, they got waves of guys that they can throw at you, but the Chiefs have Chris Jones, and Jones is just an absolute menace to society. Anyway, you might not have seen what Rex Ryan had to say about the Texans and Chargers going into Saturday. In case you did miss that, I mean, let's just reset the whole damn thing. Here is Rex Ryan putting his foot firmly in his mouth.
Chargers wind up the 5 seed. They're going to Houston. What's your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I never realized the Chargers got a bye, that they qualified for a bye, but they did because they're playing Houston.
Chargers got him. Look, Rex Ryan was a blowhard as a head coach of the Jets. And stands to reason that as a host at ESPN, an anchor, a analyst, a commentator, a pundit at ESPN, he's going to do more of the same thing. I saw that, chuckled a little bit because I felt the same way, but I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Rex Ryan doubled down before the game on Saturday. Here he is on, I guess, Saturday NFL Countdown.
I heard somebody say it was a bye week that the Chargers are going to win. You know who that was? That was me. I'm doubling down. Chargers.
Houston, we have a problem.
Oh, God, I hate it when people say, Houston, we have a problem. Shut up, Greeny. More Rex Ryan.
Ryan's record as a head coach and an assistant in the wild card round. Anybody want to guess? Anybody want to guess?
Probably pretty darn good, Greeny.
5-1.
Oh, 5-1. I went 5-3.
In the wild card round. So this man.
Yeah. Houston, you're in trouble.
Hey, Rex Ryan, the Texans have more wins than you in the wild card round. They have 6. Buddy boy, Buster Brown. People got pissed at those 2 comments, and I'm sure that Texans players saw it, and I'm sure that Texans players thought to themselves, fuck this guy. But do they really need that to be motivated to play better than they've played for the last 2/3 of the season? Shouldn't have taken Rex Ryan talking shit. After the game, it was really funny to see the way that Texans players went after Rex Ryan. First off, here are MJ Stewart and Danielle Hunter as they went off the field.
Hey, they must have had a bye week, I heard. I heard they had a bye week. Hey, some bye week for them. Hey, they must have
some bye week for them. Some more after the game. Here is Joe Mixon on Instagram Live smoking a cigar.
I thought that boy said a bye week. That boy said bye week. What's going on?
We're smoking on that Rex Ryan bye week pack.
That Rex Ryan bye week pack.
Come on, Rex.
More after the game. There was another moment where D'Amico Ryans, right off of the field, head coach of the Houston Texans, brought up Rex Ryan and what he had said, calling the Houston Texans a bye week, which honestly was kind of fair. Right after the game was done.
Good job by everybody. How was that bye week?
Yeah. There it is. How was that bye week? Look, they're totally justified in being pissed off about it, but I mean, they kind of let the entire world feel that way about them. I mean, I don't know how many people are aware of this guy. He's a really talented radio host here in Houston, Texas, maybe the most handsome man alive. But this was a great take by somebody else who, like Rex Ryan, thought that the Houston Texans were dead men walking. Let's take a listen and a watch.
I feel like just about every person who follows this team believes they are dead men walking against a Chargers team that puts the CH in choke. I am looking at this team like men who are doomed for a future execution. And I think it's fair to look at it that way, but I want people to get me out of this mindset. I mean, I'm still dealing with the anger and rage of having watched this team in person on Christmas. Somebody responded to me when I posted that rant from yesterday's show saying, get over it. No, I will never get over it. That is my January 6th. Some of you can't get over that. I will never get over that. I'll be 80 years old, riddled with dementia,
And just be rambling about the Texans losing on Christmas.
Right. Just like that meme. All right, Grandpa, let's get you to bed. Hopefully someone will give me some really nice drugs at the nursing home that I'll be abandoned at when my family forgets about me. Wow, Paul, they're so dark. Well, yes, that's the state of mind they put me in. I want someone to pull me out. Okay? I want someone to make me see the true meaning of Houston Texans football. I want somebody to make me wake up on Christmas Day like I'm Ebenezer Scrooge all of a sudden, trotting around, skipping around town, giving money to the homeless, alms to the poor. I want someone to shake me out of this because they are dead men walking.
And the Texans didn't shake me out of that with their Week 18 game against the Tennessee Titans. And let's be honest, no listener or hot taker was able to shake me out of it. Now, all of a sudden, I got people in my mentions on TikTok and on YouTube saying, who's this Paul Gallant guy? Why was he down the Texans? Because I have eyes, and I mean, you do too, and I respect your intelligence. I hope you respect mine. No one should have believed they were going to win that game. No one. Which is why I'm not apologizing. That's why I didn't apologize. But it really is funny to see the amount of Houston Texans that clearly took this to heart and were probably annoyed after the game continuously being asked about it. Here is Will Anderson with Josina Anderson at his locker right after the game.
Yeah, man, it's just outside noise, it's rat poison that you can't listen to. And, like, we hear it, of course, like, you know, you'll be a fool to say, oh, you don't hear anything. But we most definitely heard it. And then, man, we took it under the chin and we was like, okay, like, we got y'all. If that's what y'all want to say, that's what we're going to do. And, man, we went out there. We just played our brand of ball. We started to our standard, our expectations, and nobody tried to do anything extra. Everybody just played the system.
He gave a very professional answer there. That's Will Anderson with Josina Anderson. Then here's Will Anderson a little bit later, essentially being asked the same question, I believe, by Will Kunkel of Fox 26. Did he feel disrespected?
How disrespected did you guys feel going into that game?
If God be for you, who could be against you, man? Hey,
Whoa, a different answer than he gave Josina. I noticed how he was sitting with Josina looking down at the ground the whole time. And then he's talking to the camera. He's looking dead into it. And giving a line like that. Love it. I love Will Anderson. He is the happiest person in the Texans locker room. He's an absolute menace on the field. And I think it's really funny that a guy nicknamed Terminator, I mean, he would be the obnoxiously friendly Terminator if they were doing a Terminator movie because he's so polite and always smiling and kind of laughing. I enjoy it. More Will Anderson.
So my mom told me that one, and that's just how I felt like, man. Like, it doesn't matter what everybody says, like, the outside noise, man. We know what type of team we got. And, man, it's really a blessing. Like, I know, like, y'all are the media, but, like, I've never been a part of a team with this much camaraderie and how special these guys are. And, you know, the challenge was, like, to embrace this moment. Like, this is a special group of guys here that God has put us together for a season, man, and we got to embrace it and really step into it.
I like how he cracks his knuckles at the very end. More from Will Anderson, who was continuously asked about disrespect. This time he's with Chancellor Johnson of Channel 2. Chancellor asks a question, and there's a preface with it. Listen, I'm not hip. I'm not cool. So if anyone understands what this means, holler.
Keep it above with me. Did you
keep it above with me? Does that mean just keep it real? Is that Gen Z? Is that something else? I don't know. Anyway, Chancellor, you can finish your question.
guys feel disrespected at all?
Of course. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all grown men who love the game, who play the game, who hear it. And at the end of the day, you got to go against another grown man. And you got to go out there and drop your nuts and go play football.
Hell yeah, drop your nuts and go play football. Teabag them. It's got to be annoying if you're one of these players that keep on getting asked about the same shit. Hey, Rex Ryan said this. It's not a player on the Chargers. As brought up by Beast Mode Loading on YouTube, there's a difference between not believing the Texans can win and direct disrespect from Rex. That's fair, but it's a fucking loud analyst who used to be the head coach of the Jets and was known for saying, let's go get a goddamn snack. He talks shit. And I think he does it in a fun way. I don't dislike Rex Ryan. Even though he was the head coach of a team in the New York Jets that me, growing up a Patriots fan, gave me one of the worst losses I can remember. Divisional round. Bart Scott says can't wait at the end of the game. This is 2011. I went to that game. There's a Jets fan behind me talking shit the whole game. And then he started talking shit about the Celtics. He's a Knicks fan, and that's where I lost it. Like, I can understand him talking shit from a Jets perspective, but then he talked shit about the Celtics. I was like, you fucking losers. The Knicks blow. They'll never be good. They've never been good. Shut the fuck up. I had a couple of Guinnesses for the first time at a sporting event that game. Here is more response from the Houston Texans to disrespect after Saturday's victory over the LA Chargers. Still having a tough time remembering that game took place on Saturday. This is Azeez Al-Shaair asked about Rex Ryan's comments.
Shame on him. He's coaching this league. He knows, that's just him being, TV guy. I don't take it personal because at the end of the day, he's coaching this league. He knows how this league is. It's a week-to-week league. This is the best of the best. So he can say what he wants. It is what it is. But I don't even take that personal. I think maybe he was just, trying to hype himself up for TV or something.
I feel like Azeez Al-Shaair hit the nail on the head there. He could say shame on him, but he doesn't take it personally, and he thinks he was just saying something because he wants to stand out on TV. And yeah, TV, kind of a dying medium, much like the one I'm in. Don't tell anybody. You got to do things to stand out. Rex Ryan's perfect for TV. I think he's good at TV. With those giant pearly whites, those got to be veneers, right? They're so big. They're so big, and they're so white. Feels like it would be hard to keep them that white. I drink a lot of coffee. I drink a lot of wine. You might have noticed a little bit earlier, I was noisily drinking coffee from this cup with a straw because I'm trying to keep my teeth white. More Azeez Al-Shaair. Also, continuously getting asked about Rex Ryan's comments. If I'm the Texans, I'm fucking sick of getting asked about goddamn Rex Ryan. I'd probably be sick about some of the other comments that have been made by pundits in the national media about Texans, Chiefs, which we'll discuss on tomorrow's Gallant Says Live Daily. Here is more Azeez Al-Shaair.
For me personally, my entire career, I made it into this league as an undrafted free agent. So right out the bat, nobody thought anything of me. I had to always prove that. So I think that mentality kind of leaked into the team, essentially with what happened all week, where it's like, bro, like every time you step on that field, it's a chance to be whoever you want to be, good or bad, and you determine that outcome by how you prepare all week and what you do on the field on Saturday, today, or usually Sunday. So definitely, it was a chip on our shoulder, but it's always like that for me personally because that's just how this league is, man. 1 week they love you, the next week you ain't nothing.
He's pretty chill about it. I love Azeez Al-Shaair. I'm happy he's back out on the field. And if you weren't paying attention to me the week that he got suspended, I thought that suspension was bullshit. And I also felt the outrage about that hit was bullshit. If that happened to a running back, no one would have given a shit. But it happened to a quarterback. Oh, no. I mean, when you slide, you lend yourself to stuff like that. Now, I think in the immediacy afterwards, Al-Shaair should have probably chilled. It was unnecessary roughness. Maybe it merited an ejection. I don't know if it merited a 3-game suspension. And it certainly didn't merit the hullabaloo that it's still getting. There are still Jaguars fans who are getting pissy about Al-Shaair. There was a moment in Saturday's game where he tried to punch out a football from a Chargers player who was down on the ground, and the Jaguars fans took that as their chance to go after him. We'll wrap up talking about Rex Ryan saying the Houston Texans are a bye week and then doubling down that they are a bye week with Rex Ryan's apology. You can rate the apology if you so choose. Here is the ESPN analyst and former NFL head coach.
Teddy, you picked the Texans to win this game.
I did, yes.
Yeah, I think I did too, didn't I?
And also we said after in the show that what would we be talking about today? And I said today, Rex Ryan would owe the Houston Texans.
Gotta say, look at his face there. The guy is made for TV. Also, shout out to Teddy Bruschi, who picked the Houston Texans. Patriots legend, icon for me growing up.
An apology because of the performance I knew.
Look at that Super Bowl ring. That's right, Rex. You don't have shit.
They were going to put up.
Well, before we hear from Rex, let's hear from the Texans. Rex had.
All right, no, let's. We've already heard from the Texans. Let's get to more Rex Ryan. This is right after he was showed Joe Mixon smoking that Rex Ryan pack.
Oh, who says you can't motivate a team?
He brought a cigar. Hey, this guy's great. He's great at TV.
Oh, yeah, bring the stogie out. Motivated team with the best of them and things like that, but my goodness, I mean, it was. I mean, who had a worse day, me or Justin Herbert?
Herbert.
It's probably right there, but I got to tell. I mean, you got to tip your hat to them because that team played their absolute asses off. Look. If you guys were going to play like that, I would have taken you to win the Super Bowl. But I'm seeing the games going up into it, 1-5 against playoff teams. I'm seeing all that, and I'm sorry, Houston.
It's a good apology. Sometimes you got to take the L. You got to be mad at Rex Ryan for that? I mean, the great thing about sports is that anything can happen in a game. Anything can happen, at least theoretically. And the Texans shocked the world. They were 3-point home dogs. That was kind of weird. But I don't think he needed to apologize. And I like that after apologizing for calling the Houston Texans a bye week, that Rex Ryan went right back into being a troll.
Oh, we got one!
But if you think I'm not picking you next week either.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Well, maybe I will.
Ooh, maybe he will? Look, he's good at TV. And I don't think he should have apologized. I didn't apologize. Fuck apologizing. We live in a takes business. It's all about if you're entertaining with it. That's at least how I feel. Do people come back to watch you? Sometimes, yeah, you got to be an ass on TV. Sometimes you got to be the fool, and sometimes you're just being a dick. Like, there are a lot of different things that happen over the course of the shows that we do, whether it's like a 3-hour radio show, a 1-hour TV show. You're going to say a lot of stuff that ultimately ends up being wrong in an industry like this. Like, we are sort of like side chatter for the super diehard sports fan out there, or someone who's trying to, I guess, get a feel for the game and maybe throw a couple of nuggets at a friend just for the sake of conversation. Like, that's what our role is. I try to make people laugh as much as I can. Some people understand me. Others don't. Those people make me sad. But look, I think that Rex Ryan was totally fine saying what he said. I wish he didn't apologize, and I didn't apologize. We'll see what they do on Saturday against the Chiefs. I'm pretty skeptical that they're going to win. They're 9-point road dogs for a reason. But I do wish them a whole lot of luck. And if they win, it'll be the biggest win in franchise history since this team came back to town. Let's answer some questions before we talk about the Houston Rockets in just a moment. First off, Toro McJohnson makes a playoff prediction. The Ravens beat the Bills. Texans beat the Chiefs and Ravens after learning from their previous losses. Texans win the Super Bowl. Toro, I think you're being sarcastic. I really do. Brandon Halam says Kansas City only beat the Chargers 17-10 in 1917, only beat the Raiders 19-17 and 27-20, only beat the Broncos 16-14 and lost them 38-0. That game didn't count. Throw it out. Chiefs are so fraudulent. I'm not saying that. They're the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions. The Vikings at 14-3 being fraudulent? That is true. Sam Darnold's their fucking quarterback. The Chiefs, they got Patrick Mahomes. They got Travis Kelce. They got Chris Jones. You're crazy if you're doubting them. On Instagram, Avi Lieberman Comedy at Sports Gallant comments, hi, Paul. Will you be picking the Chiefs just based on hometown loyalty? Well, I'm not from Kansas City. I have done fill-in radio work in Kansas City on a radio station called KCMO. I actually did some over Christmas break, but no. I am picking the Chiefs because I'm not picking against the Chiefs. I'm not going to be the one to do it. I feel like you're crazy if you're doing it, especially with how banged up the Texans' offense is. Their defense can give them a chance, but can the defense do what it does at home on the road? I don't know. They do seem to feed off the crowd, even if it's late arriving. Are they going to be able to do that on the road? I don't know, and I wonder about the offense. I like that C.J. Stroud's confidence is back, but this is going to be one of those games where they have to force feed Nico Collins the football, which the Chiefs did a decent job of stopping, and Joe Mixon's going to have a great game, and they're going to have to continue to feed Joe Mixon, which I think they got away from in the first game against the Chiefs. Mixon, as the game wore on Saturday, got better and better, but you got to remember that offensive line in front of him is not very good. And generally, the plays that happen are ones that he is making on his own. More comments here on YouTube at Paul Gallant. Tora McJohnson says my mustache looks like a sex offender mustache. I prefer cop, but listen, I get it. It looks weird when I'm clean shaven. That's why I like to leave the scruff out there. Rick Hagewood says, my faith in the Texans is still shaky until the Texans can duplicate. Prove it that you can. Yep. Miles in that cognac says, homie, the only issue on this team is the offense. It's a big offense. It's a big issue. If the offense can snap out of it, they are beating anyone. Yeah, it's a big two-letter word, huh? If. Brandon Hallam on YouTube says, the only thing asshole Chiefs fans are asking each other is whether they sit their starters at halftime or in the third quarter. Yeah, that's the best part about rooting for a great team. That's what I would do from time to time as a Patriots fan. But there were certain teams that made me nervous. I don't know who would qualify as that for the Chiefs outside of the Cincinnati Bengals, who they have beaten the last few times they've played and who, of course, didn't make the playoffs. Maybe the Bills, but the Bills, who beat the Chiefs in the regular season, lose to the Chiefs in the playoffs. Maybe this time around will be different. Baltimore, they are definitely looking at and saying, frauds. The Texans, 2015, the worst quarterback performance of the last 10 years was Brian Hoyer against those Chiefs. And obviously with Deshaun Watson, they had the 24-7 lead. I think the Chiefs fans look at the Texans' history and they think that the franchise is a joke, and I wouldn't blame them. Damn, Toro's just bullying me right now. Paul has Lego hair. Lego hair? God damn. Desert Stro says, I need Lego hair. And continues by saying, Stephen A. Smith dislikes the Texans because of the McNairs. We'll talk about Stephen A. Smith's comment tomorrow. Beast mode loading. We'll get to that then. I want to talk about the Houston Rockets. Okay? People regularly doubt the Houston Texans, and people regularly doubt guard Jalen Green. What a transition, and what a win last night for the Houston Rockets. A win that I did not see much of, but I did tune in at the right time. I tuned in with them down 11. They were down 13 at one point and won. Long day for me. Did TV on Fox 26 in the morning, and I did a radio interview on KCMO a little bit later. Long day. I was very tired at the end of the day. I drove to my gym. It's the 24-hour fitness over on Richmond. The parking lot was too full, and I said, fuck this, I'm going home. Stopped at Walgreens along the way to pick something up that I had ordered, a photo that I'm sending to my sister for her birthday, and I got into the back seat of my car thinking it was the front seat. That's how tired I was. So I'm falling asleep watching Vikings, Rams, one-sided game, and I look up at the TV and I notice the Rockets are at least playing a slightly more competitive game. So I put it on, and then the Rockets rally and they win. And they won in what was easily the most efficient game of Jalen Green's career. Jalen Green's tied a career high with 42 points. He shot 13 of 18 from the field and 5 of 6 from outside, 11 of 11 from the free throw line, and just 3 turnovers in what was an incredibly impressive performance given that it was going against the Grizzlies' Ja Morant. The Rockets end up winning 121-18. They have now beaten the Grizzlies 3 times this year. So they've won the season series. There will be one more game between these two, and they have a commanding 2-game lead in the Southwestern Division of the NBA. That's what teams in Houston do. We own the division. First it was the Astros. All those American League West crowns in a row. 8 straight. Right? Right. Then the Houston Texans, 2 straight AFC South titles. 8 AFC South titles since 2011. And now you got the Houston Rockets 2 games up in the Southwest Division, 6 games back in the Western Conference. Hell to the yeah. Paul, the division doesn't matter. Shut up. The division matters to me, damn it. Okay? Although, winning the division doesn't really get you much in the NBA these days. But to see Green do that in a matchup like that has me excited. And I'm wondering if this is just a hot streak for Green, of which we've seen many, or if he's finally starting to figure it out. Because if you take a look at his last 4 games, he has been really good shooting the basketball, specifically from outside. Not as efficient on the 5th and the 7th against the Lakers and the Wizards, respectively. 12 shots, 41% against the Lakers in a 33-point performance. 15 shots, 7 made, 46.7% three-point percentage against the rank-ass Washington Wizards. But these past 2 games against Memphis, with the game against the Hawks canceled in between, the 9th, 27 points, 4 of 8 from outside, 11 of 21 from the field. And then last night, 5 of 6 from outside, 13 of 18 from the field. Like, you know that that's not going to regularly happen with Jalen Green. From a three-point shooter perspective, he's closer to James Harden, hopefully someday, than he is to Ray Allen, you know? And I wish he was more like Ray Allen. I like the efficient, dead-eye three-point shooters, but there are very few of those, you know? It's Steph Curry. That's kind of it these days as far as killer from outside that puts up a ton of them and has an offense centered around him. But Green with Amen Thompson, it's working. And it's interesting that it's working because you would think, all right, well, with Jabari Smith Jr. out there, at least he stretches the court. With Amen Thompson, who can't really shoot from outside, kind of makes the court more compact and gives Green less room to drive. But they've got quite the rapport. And this starting lineup that has come to be because of Jabari Smith getting Wally pipped, essentially, is a fantastic development. So my question really is Jalen Green in the midst of another hot streak, or is this who Jalen Green can be, age 22, turning 23 in a couple of weeks? And I really don't know the answer to that, but I know that last year I was in a spot where I thought Green's never going to be able to shake some of the bad habits he has. This year, in year 2 with Ime Udoka, I think there's a chance that he becomes the kind of player that Ime Udoka sees. Here is Ime Udoka after last night's game on Space City Home Network talking about Jalen Green and the difference for him this year.
I think you're seeing from him, Jalen, now that you might have seen over like a hot month last season. Is anything particularly in terms of his on-court development? Just
I love his defensive effort. It goes under. It's probably underrated for him is that he's taking the challenge with Bane and Morant and those guys. They're trying to put him in actions, and he's holding up really well there, taking pride in that. So, obviously, the scoring stands out. I think I saw he matched his career high or whatever, but taking care of the ball as well. He had the late turnover, but other than that, he coughed those up a few times last year. So, getting more used to teams going after him. Obviously, when you're scoring at that clip, they're going to come after you at some point. But he loved to be a facilitator out there and get the numbers behind it. So all he has to do is deliver the ball.
I love that the first thing that Ime brought up when asked about Jalen Green was the defense, because he's given more of a shit this year. That's huge. Steven Silas enabled so many bad habits with his step-parent or substitute teacher coaching style. I think he was just too nice. And you got a bunch of young players and GM Rafael Stone perhaps being a little bit too hands-on, specifically with Kevin Porter Jr. wanting to make him the next James Harden. And you can see how some of the bad off-the-court habits and on-the-court habits would lead to the Rockets being a complete fucking mess. But with Ime Udoka, Green is actually improving. And it does make you wonder, had the Rockets had a better coach for the first 2 seasons of Jalen Green, would we perhaps be talking about a player who's more developed and more polished at this point in time. They really lucked into Ime Udoka as a head coach. Here is more Ime Udoka talking about Jalen Green, specifically how he carried the Rockets in last night's 121-18 win over the Grizzlies.
He carried us, quite frankly, throughout the whole first half offensively. We weren't really guarding up to our level. I think they're 57.5 or 60 to 57. So we were scoring enough, but weren't defending, and a big part was him kind of keeping us afloat. I think he had 20-plus in the first half and then kind of duplicated that in the second half. But while they were going after him, he still beat the double teams. He didn't force it in other than the one late turnover. Handled that pretty well. But, just like Alpia's at times, drawing double teams, and Jalen does the same thing. It opens everything up for everybody else. And from there, it's just make the right read or take the shot. And I think it was all based on his aggressiveness and his scoring punch when we were really struggling.
Don't you love how Udoka is talking about other guys while he's talking about Green? He's trying to keep it team-oriented. He carried us, but he also was making things open for other guys. And Desert Stroh brings up on YouTube at Paul Gallant, tied his career high in points or whatever with the first comment that he had. Yeah, I love that. I like that the coach has this kind of mentality. Fuck the individual stuff. Fuck the Diontae Johnson stuff. You want a guy who is going to keep a player who scored 42 points and tied a career high grounded. And that's the Ime Udoka effect. One last note on Jalen Green. This is Jalen Green with my old co-host and good friend Vanessa Richardson after the game. This bothered me a little bit. Call me an old man yelling at a cloud. Whatever. But if you watch this, if you're an old head like me, you will be bothered by this too. Here is Jalen Green with Vanessa Richardson and a surprise appearance by Dylan Brooks.
There was one point in the fourth quarter, John Morant hit a big three, and then you hit a big shot. You guys smiled at each other, and you bumped chests. Why are you able to thrive?
That's good job. Great job. Great job.
I've never seen Dylan Brooks smile. That was Dylan Brooks coming in at the very end. But I'm going to repeat the part that bothered me a little bit. A great and astute observation by my old co-host, Vanessa.
Hit a big shot. You guys smiled at each other, and you bumped chests.
Oh! Jalen Green and John Morant. I do not want these two bumping chests as they're playing one another and both having great games. Fuck that. Fuck that. Ew. God. The kids these days. I get it. It's not a playoff game. If that happened in a playoff game, I wouldn't like it. And I don't know, maybe Jalen Green doesn't want to talk trash to John Morant, given what he did to that high schooler, given his propensity to go on Instagram Live playing with guns. But, oh, come on. You're going after each other. I'd rather, like Anthony Edwards, Jalen Green throw obscene gestures John Morant's way than bump chest with him. Even if the two like each other. They can hug it out after the game. Jalen Green, a little bit later, the interview with Vanessa continues, and, he says exactly what you want to hear, but if he's bumping chest with John Morant, it's hard to believe it.
Why are you able to thrive against the best in the league?
It's a competitive game. I like to compete.
Competitive game, I like to compete. Okay. It's not as much competition if you and the guy you're going up against are buddy-buddy. But, hey, that's just me. Call me an old head. Tormick Johnson asks, do you want Ja and Jalen bumping pelvises instead? Nope, don't want that. I also don't want a Josh Christopher situation, okay? All I'm saying is perhaps no bumping of any kind for two guys who are going up against each other. One last thing on the Rockets before you can ask me anything. Ask Gallant anything. On YouTube at Paul Gallant. On Twitch at Gallant Says, Facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports, on Twitter at Gallant Says, and on Instagram at Sports Gallant. A very interesting question was asked during last night's press conference. And I can understand why after seeing this post from Adam Wexler over at Sports Talk 790. Rockets versus the top 8 teams in the West. 1-2 against OKC, 3-0 against Memphis, 0-0 against Denver. They play Denver Thursday. 2-0 against Dallas, 1-0 against the Lakers, 3-0 against the Clippers, 1-1 against Minnesota. That's 11-3, 26-12 overall. They're doing very well against the top 8 in the West, though. A lot of their wins are coming against the Clippers, Mavericks, and Grizzlies. We'll see how they fare the next time that they play Minnesota and when they actually play Denver for a first time, and if they can actually even things up with the 1 seed in the West, OKC, next time they play. But their record, which is the second best mark in the Western Conference, and the fact that they are winning against good teams allows this question, courtesy of Adam Spillane, Sports Radio 610 and the Associated Press, to be asked. And I love that we can finally ask this question. In case you missed it, here's Adam Spillane with Ime Udoka.
We'll be at the halfway point when this trip is over. You're second in the West right now. Like, what's the ceiling of this team? Like, can this team win a championship this year?
I mean, we can improve vastly still. And that's the good part about it. When you look at, our 12 losses, you could cut that right in half, based on some last, fourth quarters things that happened early in the year, some of the bad losses to Charlotte and Portland and some of the teams, San Antonio, and the teams that we felt we should have taken care of business against. And so now we've done really well against the lower record teams and played well against the good teams for the most part. And so I think it's all building blocks, and the confidence continues to grow. But the thing about us as a staff and our team is that we know we can get so much better. And that's why we're excited about where we're at and where we can get to.
You can practically hear Ime's shoes squeaking with the defense that he's playing right there, dancing around that question because he doesn't want to answer it head on. It was a great question by Adam. I love that he asked it. I even texted him when he asked it. Hell yeah, dude. Because you can actually ask this question now. The answer is they're probably not a championship team this year. I would imagine their ceiling is the second round. But with how they're playing, specifically with Amen Thompson now in the starting lineup, blocking shots left and right, with Jalen Green seemingly improving, with a bunch of other young players on a team that turns the ball over left and right, yet still has the second best record in the West. Imagine if they ever get somebody who can handle the ball. Nothing against Fred VanVleet. You can start asking that question. And I did not think we would be asking this question this year about what their ceiling is this year. And there probably is a ceiling, but it excites me to think that they are ahead of schedule. And that's a question you can ask when you know that the team you're covering is that. Love it. If you ever have a question, you can ask it to me by emailing me, gallantsays@gmail.com. You can also join live in the chat while watching and listening to Gallant Says live at youtube.com/Paul Gallant, twitch.tv/Gallant Says, on Twitter at Gallant Says, Instagram at Sports Gallant, and Facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports. If you haven't liked this video already, please do. If you haven't subscribed to my channel and you like what you see, please do. It's also available after the fact wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and on SoundCloud. Let's answer some of your questions. On Instagram, Astros Flag World Tour has a couple of questions. Paul, watching the talking heads in the large networks the last couple of days, everyone's been talking about how hard it is to beat a team twice in one season. Thoughts? I think it's difficult to beat a team twice in a year because the other team knows what you do well if you're able to beat them to a degree. How well they know, that's up for debate. But I think that for the Chiefs, I do not think this is going to be difficult because of how recently these two teams played against one another, because of how creative Andy Reid is as an offensive mind. Nothing against D'Amico Ryans, who's been doing a hell of a job with the defense this year, but I think Andy Reid's going to be able to cook up something with the very, very recent memory of what he faced with that Texans defense. And I think for the Texans offense, which is now really in a bind given the injuries to the skill position players, I think it's going to be a lot more difficult for someone like Bobby Slowick to come up with something that's going to outdo the Chiefs defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo. He's a great defensive coordinator. You know, he won the Giants a Super Bowl over the New England Patriots and Tom Brady back in the day, you know, with what he does. So to bring up another Patriots comparison, yeah, the Patriots once smoked the Jets 42-6 before Rex Ryan and company came into Foxborough a couple of weeks later and upset them in a game that I was in attendance for. There was, I think, like about a month in between the games, much like there's going to be about a month between Texans-Chiefs round 1 and Texans-Chiefs round 2. But I think that the Chiefs coaching staff gives them a tremendous advantage, and the fact that these players have been there and done that also helps them out. Really what you're hoping for is rust to make the Chiefs start off slow and that the Texans can actually build a lead and sit on top of it there. I think really the biggest key is going to be, can Joe Mixon do Joe Mixon things in a year where, even though the Texans offensive line has not looked good, he has looked about the best he's ever been. Another comment. This is from Astros Flag World Tour on Instagram at Sports Gallant. Paul, put it on tape now. Who brings the next championship to Houston? The Texans, Astros, or Rockets? I think it's between the Texans and Rockets. Nothing against the Astros. They need to add an outfielder of some sort. The American League West, very good division. Not. It's very easy. It's not improving at all. So you think that's their birthright, the American League West, even if it was a little bit tighter than it needs to be. They did do pretty well without Kyle Tucker last year, for what it's worth. We'll see what the new acquisitions in the Kyle Tucker trade do. But I got some real questions just about their outfield and about the health of their pitching, both from a starting perspective and from a bullpen perspective too. Like, I really wonder what Ryan Presley is at this phase. So I'm not going to say the Astros. I think the Rockets are probably 2 years away. I think the Texans could theoretically win it next year still, but there needs to be some serious changes made to the offense. They're not going to move on from Bobby Slowick. I would be shocked if they did. They are going to have to move on from Chris Strausser, their offensive line coach, and they're going to have to find some new offensive linemen. And I wonder how they do that. Nick Caserio, I do trust the guy as general manager. Tora McJohnson comments on YouTube. Ime having an affair was great for the Rockets. Yes, it was. Enrique Gonzalez wants a birthday shout out. Happy birthday, buddy. Anything else? Anything else? Anything else? That's just about it. Oh, Zeke Rocks commented, keep it buck means keep it 100, which means keep it real. Okay, so keep it a buck. That's like keep it 100. Got it. Now it makes sense to me. I thought he was saying maybe keep it above. Wasn't 100% sure. Anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I know I do not do these nearly as regularly as you want or as I want. Ideally, I'd like to do these at 3:30 in the afternoon every single day. We're going to shoot for that tomorrow. How many times have you said that before, Paul? Shut up! I appreciate you tuning in. If you haven't liked and subscribed already, please do. Have yourselves a wonderful Tuesday until Wednesday at 3:30 Central Time, we hope. I am merely Paul Gallant. So long, farewell. Have yourselves an awesome day. Peace!